moment you defend yourself, you lose. That sentence alone can save you years of humiliation, anxiety, and quiet defeat if you truly understand it. Because defense is not neutral. It is not clarification. It is not truth-seeking. Defense is a transfer of power. The instant you begin explaining yourself, you accept an invisible agreement that the other person has the authority to judge you. And once that agreement is made, the outcome is no longer in your control. Most people don't realize this because they confuse fairness with power. They believe that if they just explain clearly enough, calmly enough, honestly enough, the other person will see reason. That belief is comforting. It is also naive. Machiavelli would call it dangerous. In the real world, explanations are not evaluated on truth. They are evaluated on status. And when you explain yourself, you lower yours. Think about how children behave when accused of something. They rush to explain. Their voices rise. Their words come fast and tangled. Now think about how someone with real authority responds to accusation. A judge does not plead their case. A king does not argue with a peasant. A lion does not explain itself to sheep. Power does not defend. Power proceeds. The act of defending yourself places you in a reactive position. You are no longer leading the interaction. You are responding to it. You are stepping into someone else's frame, playing by rules they wrote, on ground they chose. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He observed that the one who controls the frame controls the outcome. When someone accuses you and you rush to defend, you accept their frame that there is something to answer for. You legitimize their accusation simply by responding to it. Most accusations are not designed to uncover truth. They are designed to provoke movement, to make you shift, to make you explain, to make you bend. An accusation is a lever, and the moment you grab it, it pulls you off balance. This is why manipulators accuse quickly and vaguely. They don't need evidence. They need reaction. Why are you acting like this? Why did you say that? Why are you so defensive? Notice the trap. Even the question implies guilt. And when you answer, you fall deeper into it. The psychological mechanism at work here is ancient. Human beings subconsciously equate explanation with weakness. The more you explain, the more you signal uncertainty, and uncertainty invites pressure. Pressure invites dominance. Machiavelli warned that those who appear unsure invite attack. Not because others are evil, but because human nature is opportunistic. Where there is instability, power rushes in to occupy the space. This is why defending yourself often makes things worse. You think you're clearing your name, but you're actually extending the trial. Every sentence becomes another angle to challenge, another thread to pull, another opening for doubt. You are feeding the very fire you want to extinguish. Silence, on the other hand, does something unsettling. It denies the accuser the response they crave. It refuses to validate their authority. It creates asymmetry. Suddenly, they are speaking into a void, and nothing makes people more uncomfortable than not knowing whether their attack landed. Machiavelli understood that uncertainty is a weapon. When you do not defend yourself, you force the other person to reveal their hand. They over-explain. They escalate. They expose their motives. Meanwhile, you remain still. Stillness is not passivity, it is control. People will tell you that if you don't defend yourself, others will believe the accusation. That fear keeps millions trapped in endless justification. But this fear misunderstands how perception works. People don't side with the most detailed explanation. They side with the person who appears most certain. Certainty is quiet. Insecurity is loud. Look at history. Powerful figures are accused constantly. They do not respond to every rumor. They do not chase every lie. They let time and outcomes do the talking. Machiavelli wrote that reputation is not preserved through argument, but through consistent action. Results overwrite gossip. Silence starves it. When you defend yourself, you communicate that the accusation has value, that it deserves energy, that it deserves your time. That message spreads faster than your actual words. Even if your defense is perfect, the damage is already done. You taught others that you can be summoned, questioned, and pressured into explanation. There is also a darker truth here. Many people who accuse you are not interested in resolution. They are interested in positioning. By defending yourself, you elevate them to your level. You turn a nobody into a prosecutor. Machiavelli warned princes never to dignify weak enemies with response. Response gives legitimacy. Silence denies it. This does not mean you never speak. It means you never explain from a defensive posture. There is a difference between stating and justifying. A statement is grounded. It stands on its own. A justification leans forward. It seeks approval. The former maintains power. The latter surrenders it. Consider how powerful people communicate. Short sentences, few words, no emotional leakage. They do not race to be understood. They assume understanding will come, or not. Either way, they move forward. Motion itself becomes the message. The need to defend yourself usually comes from ego, not wisdom. The ego wants to be seen as good, fair, correct. It panics at misunderstanding. It cannot tolerate being misjudged. But Machiavelli would tell you that obsession with being seen as good is a liability. Those who must be understood are easily controlled. When you let go of the need to correct every perception, something changes internally. You stop performing. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop leaking power through explanation. And others feel it. They may not understand it consciously, but they respond to it instinctively. Silence creates hierarchy. Not loud, aggressive silence, but composed silence, the kind that says, "I do not need your agreement to proceed." That energy unsettles people because it removes their leverage. They cannot shame you. They cannot corner you. They cannot extract justification. The game collapses. There is a reason Machiavelli advised rulers to speak less than they know and show less than they have. Information is power, and every explanation is a donation of information to someone who may not deserve it. When you defend yourself, you reveal motives, fears, priorities. You expose your internal structure. A strategist never does this under pressure. You must understand this clearly. Most people are not judging you to be fair. They are judging you to orient themselves in relation to you. Are you above them, equal to them, or beneath them? Defense answers that question immediately. It says, "I am beneath your judgment." Refusing to defend does not mean accepting guilt. It means refusing the premise. It means declining the trial entirely. You are not playing innocent or guilty. You are playing sovereign. This is why the instruction is not, "Defend yourself better." The instruction is never defend yourself at all. Let those who want clarity observe your consistency. Let those who want drama exhaust themselves. Let those who want power reveal their hunger. Time is the ultimate judge, and time favors those who are not constantly explaining their existence. The moment you stop defending yourself, something flips. Conversations shorten, attacks weaken, accusations lose momentum, and those who relied on your reactions suddenly feel exposed. They depended on your explanation to feel relevant. Without it, they fade. This is Machiavelli's trick, not because it is clever, but because it aligns with how power actually moves through human systems. Quietly, patiently, without apology. And once you understand this, truly understand it, you stop wasting your breath. You stop pleading your case. You stop fighting shadows. You simply move. And the world rearranges itself around that movement. Most accusations are not about truth. They are about control. This is the part most people never see because they are too busy reacting to notice the structure of the attack. When someone accuses you, the surface story is always morality, concern, fairness, or accountability. But beneath that surface is something colder. An attempt to move you, to shift you, to pull you out of your center and into their emotional territory. An accusation is bait. And if you bite, the hook sets. Machiavelli understood that power is rarely seized through direct force. It is seized through provocation, through emotional leverage, through making the other person step out of position. The accusation is one of the oldest tools for this. It costs nothing to launch and can extract enormous energy in return. Notice how accusations are often vague. You've changed. You're not the same anymore. You know what you did. These statements are not meant to be clarified. They are meant to destabilize. Precision would weaken them. Ambiguity allows endless interpretation, endless defense, endless emotional labor from you. The moment you try to clarify, you've already lost the advantage. You are no longer observing the situation. You are inside it. You are now reacting instead of reading. And reaction is always slower than intention. Most people assume accusations are expressions of hurt or injustice. Sometimes they are, but far more often they are tests. Tests of how easily you can be pushed. Tests of how much control you give away when pressure appears. Machiavelli observed that men reveal their strength not when they speak, but when they are provoked. Provocation strips away polish and exposes structure. This is why manipulators accuse early and often, not because they are confident, but because they are unsure. Accusation is a way to regain balance when someone feels threatened. If they can make you respond, they can make you move. And if they can make you move, they can begin to steer. Think about how quickly people accuse when they feel inferior. A colleague who senses your competence will accuse you of arrogance. A partner who feels insecure will accuse you of neglect. A friend who fears being left behind will accuse you of betrayal. These accusations are not observations. They are pressure tactics designed to reassert relevance. The goal is not resolution. The goal is reaction. Once you see this, everything changes. You stop hearing accusations as statements of fact and start hearing them as strategic signals. Signals of insecurity. Signals of positioning. Signals of attempted control. And this is where silence becomes dangerous, in the best possible way. When you do not react, the accuser is left holding the bait. They expected motion, they expected defense, they expected explanation. Instead, they get stillness, and stillness creates uncertainty. Uncertainty forces them to reveal more. They begin talking, elaborating, justifying themselves. The dynamic flips. Machiavelli knew that the one who speaks under pressure is the one being pressured. Those who are secure do not rush to explain themselves. They let others fill the silence. And people always do. Humans are uncomfortable with unresolved tension. We rush to resolve it, often by exposing our motives. This is why refusing to engage with accusations is so powerful. It forces the accuser to escalate or retreat, and escalation always exposes intent. The more emotional they become, the clearer it becomes that the accusation was never about truth. It was about power. Most people fear accusations because they fear how others will perceive them. They imagine invisible juries forming instantly, judging silently. This fear keeps them reactive, but Machiavelli would remind you that public opinion is shaped less by argument and more by confidence. People follow certainty, not explanation. When you remain calm and unmoved by accusation, you project certainty. You communicate that you are not threatened, that you do not need to scramble for moral high ground, that your position is stable. This changes how observers interpret the accusation. Instead of asking, "Is this true?" they begin to ask, "Why is this person trying so hard?" Defensive responses feed accusations. They give them oxygen. They keep them alive. Silence starves them. Most accusations cannot survive without engagement. They collapse under their own weight when ignored. This is why Machiavelli warned against fighting every battle. He understood that some conflicts exist only to drain you, to distract you, to weaken your position while others advance quietly. Accusations are often such battles. They are designed to consume attention, not to resolve anything meaningful. There is also a deeper psychological layer here. When you defend yourself, you accept the moral framework of the accuser. You allow them to define what is acceptable, what is questionable, what requires explanation. This is subtle but devastating. You begin operating inside their value system, not your own. Refusing to defend is refusing the framework. It says, "I do not recognize your authority to judge me." That message does not need to be spoken. It is felt. And it triggers discomfort in those who rely on moral pressure to control others. People who accuse often believe they are morally superior. They believe their feelings justify their demands. When you refuse to react, you puncture that illusion. They are forced to confront the possibility that their accusation has no power. That realization is destabilizing. This is why some accusers escalate when ignored. They get louder, more dramatic, more emotional. This is not strength, it is desperation. It reveals dependence on your response. The louder they become, the more obvious it becomes that the accusation was bait. Machiavelli would advise you to let this happen. Let them expose themselves. Let them overplay their hand. Let them show their need for control. Your restraint becomes contrast. Your calm becomes evidence. There is a crucial distinction here that must be understood. Silence is not avoidance, it is selection. You are choosing not to participate in a false conflict. You are conserving energy for real battles. This is not weakness. It is strategy. Not every accusation deserves attention. Not every challenge deserves engagement. Those who rise in power learn to differentiate between signal and noise. Accusations are often noise dressed as urgency. The hardest part of this discipline is emotional. Your instincts will scream at you to clarify, to correct, to explain. That instinct comes from fear of misinterpretation. But misinterpretation is unavoidable. People will misunderstand you no matter what you do. Trying to control perception through explanation is exhausting and ineffective. Machiavelli accepted this reality. He understood that reputation is not managed moment to moment. It is built over time through consistent behavior. Short-term accusations fade. Long-term patterns remain. When you stop reacting to accusations, you reclaim time. You reclaim focus. You reclaim psychological space. You are no longer being pulled into other people's storms. You remain anchored while others churn. This is the flip. The accusation was meant to control you. Your non-response controls the situation. The accuser expected power. They receive uncertainty. They expected dominance. They encounter a wall. And walls do not argue. They simply stand. In time, people learn something about you. They learn that accusation does not move you. That pressure does not bend you. That emotional leverage does not work. And once people learn that, they stop trying. Predators seek easier prey. Manipulators seek reactive targets. When you remove reactivity, you remove interest. This is not about being cold. It is about being unreachable to manipulation. It is about recognizing that not all communication is sincere. Some is strategic, some is parasitic, and engaging with it only feeds it. Machiavelli's insight was never about cruelty. It was about clarity, about understanding how power actually operates beneath the surface of polite language and moral performance. Accusations feel heavy because they are designed to. They are meant to weigh you down, slow you, and pull you into someone else's orbit. Refuse the orbit. Let the accusation pass through the space where your reaction was supposed to be, and watch what happens when there is nothing to grab onto. The game ends, and you remain standing. The moment you defend yourself, you lose. Not because you were wrong, not because the accusation was true, but because defense is submission disguised as reason. The instant you begin explaining yourself, something invisible but irreversible happens. You accept the premise that the other person has the right to judge you. You step into a courtroom you did not build, stand before a jury you did not select, and begin pleading your case under rules designed against you. From that moment on, the outcome is no longer about truth. It is about hierarchy. Most people never see this because they believe the world runs on fairness. They believe misunderstandings can be corrected. They believe clarity restores balance. That belief feels noble. It is also a trap. Machiavelli understood that power does not respond to fairness. It responds to position, and defense is a positional loss. Look closely at how authority behaves. A judge does not justify their rulings to the defendant. A commander does not argue with a soldier. A leader does not scramble to explain themselves to critics. Authority speaks when it chooses, not when it is provoked. Explanation under pressure is the language of subordinates. When someone accuses you and you rush to defend yourself, you do more than respond. You validate the accusation by treating it as worthy of your energy. You turn suspicion into legitimacy. Even if your defense is perfect, you have already lost ground. You told everyone watching that you can be summoned, questioned, and made to react. This is why accusations are so effective. They require no proof, only reaction. The accuser does not need to win the argument. They only need to pull you out of your center. The moment you lean forward to explain, you signal instability, and human beings are instinctively drawn to instability. They press on it. They test it. They exploit it. Machiavelli observed that people do not attack strength head-on. They provoke it. They poke. They accuse. They bait. They wait for movement. And when movement comes, they advance. Defense is that movement. Most accusations are not moral judgments. They are strategic moves. They are designed to shift the frame of interaction. When someone says, "Why did you do that?" they are not asking for understanding. They are asserting authority. When someone says, "Explain yourself," they are not curious. They are positioning themselves above you. The danger is subtle. Defense feels responsible. It feels mature. It feels like the right thing to do. But power is not impressed by good intentions. Power is impressed by composure, and composure is silent. Think about the people who dominate rooms without raising their voices. They are rarely the ones explaining. They are the ones listening, watching, allowing others to speak themselves into exposure. Machiavelli knew that speech under pressure reveals weakness faster than silence ever could. When you defend yourself, you give away information, motives, fears, justifications, priorities. You reveal what matters to you. A strategist never reveals structure while under attack. Yet most people do this instinctively, believing honesty will protect them. Honesty without leverage is vulnerability. Silence does something profound. It refuses the premise. It denies the accuser the satisfaction of reaction. It creates asymmetry. Suddenly, one person is pushing, and the other is unmoved. That imbalance is unsettling. People expect friction. When they meet stillness, they question themselves. This is why silence often escalates the accuser. They repeat themselves, they grow louder, they become emotional. This is not strength, it is exposure. Their need for response reveals their dependence on control. And dependence is weakness. Machiavelli advised rulers to let others speak first, especially in moments of tension. Why? Because those who speak under pressure betray their position. The one who remains silent forces the other to fill the void. And people always fill silence with themselves. There is also a deeper layer at work. When you defend yourself, you unconsciously adopt the moral framework of the accuser. You begin answering questions you did not ask, justifying standards you did not choose. You allow someone else to define what is acceptable. That is not conversation. That is submission. Refusing to defend is refusing the frame. It says, without words, "I do not recognize your authority over me." That message is felt immediately. It disrupts expectations. Most people rely on social scripts. Accusation followed by explanation. Pressure followed by compliance. When the script breaks, power shifts. People fear that silence will make them look guilty. This fear keeps them trapped in endless justification. But perception does not work the way they think. Observers do not side with the most detailed explanation. They side with the most stable presence. Stability implies confidence. Confidence implies innocence or irrelevance. Either way, it weakens the accusation. Machiavelli understood that reputation is not defended moment by moment. It is established through consistency. Accusations come and go, patterns remain. Those who rush to correct every misinterpretation appear insecure. Those who move forward appear grounded. Defense prolongs conflict. Silence shortens it. Most accusations cannot survive without oxygen. They need reaction to stay alive. When deprived of it, they collapse or turn inward. The accuser is left alone with their own intensity. This is why powerful people choose their words carefully and sparingly. They do not argue in public. They do not explain themselves to everyone. They understand that not all audiences are equal. Not all questions are sincere. Not all critics deserve attention. There is a difference between stating and defending. A statement is firm, it stands alone, it does not seek agreement. Defense leans forward, it seeks validation. The former signals power, the latter leaks it. The instinct to defend yourself often comes from ego, not wisdom. The ego wants to be understood. It wants to be seen as fair, good, correct. It panics at misjudgment. But Machiavelli warned that the desire to appear good is a vulnerability. Those who must be understood can be controlled through misunderstanding. When you let go of the need to correct every narrative, you gain something rare. Freedom of movement. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop explaining your existence. You stop bleeding energy through unnecessary speech. And others notice. Conversations change. Accusations soften. Pressure weakens. Because people sense that you cannot be moved easily. And what cannot be moved is difficult to dominate. This does not mean you never speak. It means you never speak from below. You choose when to clarify and when to let ambiguity work in your favor. Machiavelli saw ambiguity as a shield. Clarity benefits those in control. Ambiguity protects those who refuse to be cornered. There is a quiet confidence in allowing others to misunderstand you. It signals that their perception does not define your direction, that you are not performing for approval, that you are operating from internal authority. When you stop defending yourself, the dynamic reverses. Now others explain, others justify, others feel the need to fill the space. You become the reference point, and reference points do not argue. They exist. This is the real lesson. Power is not loud. It is not frantic. It does not rush to speak. Power waits. Power watches. Power moves when it chooses. The moment you defend yourself, you abandon that position. So do not defend. Do not rush. Do not explain under pressure. Let your consistency speak. Let time do its work. Let silence carry weight. Because in a world addicted to reaction, the one who remains unmoved controls the game. The moment you defend yourself, you lose. Not loudly, not dramatically, but structurally. Something shifts the instant you begin to explain. You may not feel it, but everyone else does. The balance tilts. The ground moves under your feet. You have stepped into a position that is lower than the one you were standing in before the accusation ever reached you. Defense feels natural, almost moral. You were taught that if someone misunderstands you, you should clarify. If someone accuses you, you should explain. If someone doubts you, you should prove yourself. But those rules were written for polite society, not for power. Machiavelli understood something most people never do. Power does not reward those who explain themselves. It rewards those who remain unmoved. When you defend yourself, you are not just speaking. You are agreeing to a hidden contract. You are agreeing that the other person has the authority to question you, to evaluate you, to weigh your words. That agreement is never stated, but it is always felt. And once it is made, you are no longer equal in the interaction. Think about who explains themselves in the world. Employees explain themselves to bosses. Children explain themselves to parents. Suspects explain themselves to police. The one explaining is always below the one listening. This is not about truth. It is about hierarchy. And the moment you defend yourself, you place yourself in the lower position. This is why accusations are so powerful. They are not weapons of truth. They are weapons of positioning. An accusation forces a decision. Either you ignore it and appear unbothered, or you respond and appear affected. The accuser does not need to be right. They only need you to move. Machiavelli observed that people do not challenge power directly. They provoke it. They test it. They look for reactions. Because reaction is proof of vulnerability. A stone does not react when kicked. A wall does not argue when struck. But a person who defends themselves reveals that they can be pressured. Most people believe defending themselves protects their reputation. In reality, it exposes it. Explanation invites scrutiny. Scrutiny invites doubt. Doubt invites escalation. What began as a small accusation becomes a long conversation, then a debate, then a judgment. All because you chose to speak when silence would have ended it. Silence is not absence. Silence is a signal. It signals that you do not recognize the accusation as important enough to address. that you are not scrambling to be understood, that your sense of self is not dependent on their approval. This is deeply unsettling to people who rely on emotional leverage. When someone accuses you, they expect one of two things: submission or conflict. Defense gives them both. It submits to their frame and invites further pressure. Silence gives them neither. It denies them the game entirely. Machiavelli knew that the most dangerous position is not being hated, but being pulled into endless justification. A man defending himself is a man bleeding power slowly. Each word costs him something. Each explanation reveals structure. Each attempt to be understood creates another opening to be misunderstood. Notice how quickly explanations multiply. You explain one thing, and immediately another question follows. Then another, and another. Suddenly you are defending not just your actions, but your intentions, your character, your past. This is not dialogue. This is interrogation. And you volunteered for it. Why do people keep explaining even when it clearly hurts them? Because the ego cannot tolerate being misjudged. The ego wants to correct the record. It wants to be seen as fair, good, reasonable. Machiavelli would call this a weakness. Those who need to be seen as good are easy to control through accusation. The truth is uncomfortable. People do not judge based on explanations. They judge based on confidence and consistency. Someone who remains calm under accusation appears grounded. Someone who rushes to defend appears unstable. Even if the facts are on your side, perception follows posture, not logic. Look at how real authority behaves. Authority does not argue. Authority does not plead. Authority does not over-explain. It states when necessary and remains silent when not. That silence is not empty. It is heavy. It carries implication. It forces others to fill the space. Machiavelli advised rulers to let others speak themselves into exposure. When someone accuses and receives no reaction, they feel compelled to continue, to justify their accusation, to add emotion, to escalate, and in doing so, they reveal motive. Insecurity leaks out. Desire for control becomes visible. The accusation collapses under its own weight. Defense, on the other hand, hides the accuser. It keeps them comfortable. It lets them sit back while you perform, while you labor, while you justify your existence. You do the work for them. There is also a subtle but critical shift that happens internally when you defend yourself. You begin to doubt your own position, even slightly, even unconsciously. You start adjusting your words to be acceptable. You soften edges. You compromise clarity. Over time, this erodes self-respect. You become someone who is always explaining, always adjusting, always reacting. Silence preserves internal authority. It keeps your center intact. It tells your nervous system that you are not under threat, that you do not need to perform for safety. This internal signal matters. People feel it. Humans are extremely sensitive to who feels grounded and who feels defensive. People fear silence because they think it means losing control of the narrative. But the opposite is true. Silence controls the narrative by refusing to participate in distortion. Most narratives die without reinforcement. Most accusations fade when they are not fed. Machiavelli understood time as an ally of power. Short-term noise means nothing. Long-term consistency means everything. When you remain silent and continue moving forward, people recalibrate. They assume there was nothing to defend in the first place, or they assume you are operating on a level beyond the accusation. Either way, the pressure dissipates. This does not mean you never speak. It means you never speak from a defensive position. There is a difference between stating and justifying. A statement stands, a justification leans. A statement does not ask to be believed. It exists. A justification begs for acceptance. The more powerful you become, the less you will need to explain yourself. Not because you are arrogant, but because your actions create clarity without words. Machiavelli believed that outcomes silence critics more effectively than arguments ever could. There is also a final, darker truth. Some people accuse you precisely because they want your attention. Your defense gives them significance. It elevates them. Silence denies them relevance, and relevance is often the real prize. When you stop defending yourself, certain people will disappear. Others will soften. Some will grow angry. That anger is not about injustice. It is about loss of control. You removed their leverage. This is the flip. The accusation was meant to pull you down. Your silence leaves it hanging in the air, unsupported, awkward, exposed, and eventually forgotten. Power does not shout. Power does not rush. Power does not explain itself to every voice. Power moves forward and lets the world adjust. The moment you understand this, you stop wasting energy on defense. You stop fighting every shadow. You stop answering every call. You become selective with your words, and in that selectivity, authority grows. The moment you defend yourself, you lose. The moment you remain still, you take control. And from that position, everything changes.